and welcome to the Edmentum Credit Retrieval Teacher Online Training video. All of the support materials for this video will be found on the training website. Today we're going to go over the essential skills of a credit retrieval teacher using the Edmentum platform, starting with essential skills like logging in. We'll move on to managing the course for students, grading, and then finally completion reports. To get started, we're going to log in according to the login information located on this page. We're going to do that by going to login.edmentum.com. It will take you to this site. Logging in for teachers and students is very similar. All accounts are NISD 6. There are login sheets that you can provide your students. They will be provided to you by the AST. For teachers, your login name is going to start with E and then your E number. And your password will simply be your E number, or if you have a newer login, it will be your first initial, last initial, and then your E number. For students, the login would be S and ID number for their username, and the password would simply be their ID number. When you log in as a teacher, this is the screen that will show initially. One of the first steps I always take is to go to courseware at the top and click on the high school or campus you are working at. The easiest way to be a student in the system is by going to My Students. You'll see when you go to My Students, there's a search bar here. The student we're going to be working with today is John Smith. As you see, as I start typing in, anybody with the name John will come up. We're going to be using John Smith right here. To see their account and what they're working on, you simply click on the student themselves. You'll see John is assigned 2 courses right now. He's currently in progress on English 3B, and you'll see the progress bar over here to your right. The other thing that the screen will show will be when that course was last accessed by the student. We can see that there. And we can also see that John Smith has another course that he had finished, and this is what we'll be working with today. Something else that is an important skill to know when it comes to working with this page, if you need to update a student's progress bar and their start and end dates, you'll see these 3 little dots over here. If I want to update John Smith's start and end date, when I click on that little 3 dots to the right side of the screen, you will see I can edit his start and end dates here. As for completing student and dropping student, that's something only the AST will be able to do, and many people will not have access to that. So we're just worried about editing start and end dates. For John Smith, say that maybe it says February was his start date, but he didn't actually start in my class until 3/1/2025, and he finished on 4/20/2025. I'm able to update that here and save his start and end date so they correspond when the student was working on the course. All right, let's go ahead and click on one of John's courses so you can see the teacher view from within a course. A lot of information here. It's very user-friendly and easy to see what's going on. We have John's name, date last access, course completion, progress there, as well as your course grade and current grade. When we scroll down, we see that the course is broken up into different units. Within those units are the various lessons, and sometimes there's going to be activities that students need to complete within those lessons. Each lesson has a tutorial and a mastery test. Tutorial is the student's lesson where they're going to take notes to prepare for the mastery test. They may use those notes on the mastery test. One of the things you will notice with John's course here is there's no pre-test. That's because this is a credit acceleration or CA course. Where there are no pre-tests because the student has not taken the course before, if it was a CR or credit retrieval course, you would see the pre-test first. You always want a student to complete a pre-test before dipping into any of the lessons, tutorials, etc., because that pretest will determine which lessons they actually have to complete, and they may exempt out of some lessons. A few other things we can see here are the time on task. You can see how much time he spent on tutorials as well as on the mastery test. Before unlocking a mastery test for a student, lock is default, and this teacher does need to unlock the test for each attempt. We want to make sure that a student has completed a good 15 to 20 minutes minimum is usually a good rule of thumb on the tutorial as well as their notes. Once that's done, a test can be unlocked for a student. You will also see the score for the student's test. There's a view button here that will allow you to see the test bank for that mastery test. And these three dots here will allow you some other actions like unlocking, editing scores, and viewing history. We will get back into those management activities and tasks in just a moment, but we're going to first go ahead and flip to the student view so you can compare the two. Okay, let's go ahead and log in as a student just so you can see what a student screen looks like in comparison to the teacher screen. You will notice that I use the S number to log in and then just their ID number without the S as their password. For this student, Jean Smith, she has a completed course here and then one that I just registered for, so you can see what an incomplete course looks like. For most students, when you're getting them started, you're going to see 0% completion. When they log in, they have their taskbar at the top, time on task, and course grade available. Each unit will have various lessons once you click on them for the drop-down, but we'll start with a pre-test if it's a credit retrieval class. Credit acceleration, of course, doesn't have pre-tests, and those students will launch straight into the lesson. For the pretest, you'll notice it's locked here. As the teacher, I would unlock that as I get them started on their course. And they're always going to want to complete that pretest first. The pretest will exempt them from lessons that they perform well on and show mastery in. Once the pretest is completed and they have a score, there will be a blue E here for any lesson they are exempt from. That means the student does not have to complete the lesson, which is a benefit of credit retrieval and one of the ways they're able to complete courses faster. The other lessons that do not have the blue E will be the lessons they need to complete. Let's see what that looks like on another course that Jane's already completed. So that's World Geography here. Here's a good example where you see the completion bar at the top, course grade, current grade, and then when we click on the Unit 1 drop-down, we'll see where Jane took the pretest. She got a 60. The computer will automatically exempt students from lessons they don't have to do, which is that blue E here, and it will say completed. For the other lessons, let's go ahead and look at the tutorial. When I'm showing the student the tutorial, I'll always let them know these are the number of the slides at the top and how they move forward. And the important piece that they'll need to start with is the guided notes. They click on this folder on the far left. This is the resources folder. They'll find the guided notes for the lesson here. That's the first thing they're going to want to access, whether they're completing those through Kami as digital notes or printing the notes to take along with them while they are going through the lesson. These notes are simple to fill out and will be able to be used on the test in the end, so it's very much worthwhile. There are about 3 courses in Edmentum that do not have guided notes built into the tutorial itself. These notes have been created by teachers and are available to you. However, you'll either have to print or send them to the students. They're available in a drive that you'll be provided a link for on your training site, or it's available at the bit.ly that is located here. That's bit.ly/Edmentum notes, And that should take you to this screen where you're able to access any notes. Again, ASL, African American Studies, and Economics are the only notes that aren't already built into the Edmentum platform for students. From here, we're going to go back to the teacher view and discuss the various management tasks and activities that you're going to need to complete as a credit retrieval teacher. We're going to look at a course that was already completed by John, just so we can look at the different types of actions you may need to take at various points in a student's course. One of the first things you're going to do is need to know how to lock and unlock a student test. We would unlock a pretest for a student who's just starting, or if they finished their tutorial and are ready for a mastery test. You're going to click on these three dots here. This is where most of our actions as a teacher lie. In order to unlock a test, we're just going to click at the top. Once you do that and you refresh, you'll see that that student's test is unlocked now. It's a good rule of thumb or idea to tell the student that they should refresh after you've unlocked their test so that that is accessible for them. The next thing we want to be aware of when it comes to student actions is viewing a quiz or test responses. I mentioned earlier that there's a little view button here beside mastery tests. Sometimes you'll want to look at a test in order to be able to see how a student's doing. This button actually gives you a look at the student's test itself. It will show you which questions they got right and wrong. You can also see that if the answer was incorrect, you can view the answer key to see what the correct answer was if you do need to coach a student on that. There are some courses, some English courses, as well as history courses where there are more than one answer within a question. So say maybe this was a two-part answer and they said, which of these two expressions? Obviously, that is not this particular test. But if the student did have to select two answers and got one right and one wrong, or had to put things in order, chronological order is often found in the history courses, sometimes they'll get part of the answer correct. If it's just two questions, you can, as the teacher, opt to give them partial credit for that. It does make a difference considering that all mastery tests are 5 questions. So each question is a very hefty 20 points. So when it comes down to a student got a 60 on a test, but they had one question where they answered a 2-part question half correct, that gets them to a passing 70. So it is good to know that you can come in and view a student's test activity here and see exactly what they are answering. I'm going to go ahead and close this. This flips us back to the teacher view. In order to view all of the test bank answers, so if a student is actively working on a test and you want to see how they're doing, or maybe be able to advise them, just help direct them to the right answer, and it's not a course or an answer that you're familiar with and you can't seem to find it in their notes, you can see the entire test bank by clicking on the test itself. There's 10 possible questions that would come up for the student here, and as the teacher, you're able to go through and view the correct answers. From here, we're going to go ahead and close that out. Another action that you might want to be familiar with is grade changing. Grade changes aren't typically something that you're going to do. However, as I mentioned before, if a student did earn partial credit on a quiz, in order to change their grade to add that 10 extra points or whatever it might be, you can go to Edit Activity. If it was 10 points on this quiz, I would change the grade to a 90 and save results. That's one time you might do a grade change. The other is when it's a credit acceleration course. Remember, with credit acceleration, if a student has taken a test more than 2 times, the max grade they can get on that test is a 70. So say John here happened to take this test 3 times. He failed the first 2. The second time, he made a 90 on the test. However, he's only able to get a 70 as his max score because it was an open note test and this is his 3rd attempt. We would go to Edit Activity, change this to a 70, and save our results. Another handy button to be aware of when it comes to a teacher view and working with students is the View History button. View History allows us to see who logged in when. Also, if a grade was changed, you can see those grade changes I made for demonstration right there. You can see when that occurred. You can also see when John was on the test. If he's taken the test before, we would already see in there, but we would have an idea of when that might be. Sometimes if an assignment sheet isn't filled out immediately when a student has finished a test, the teacher will need to come back here, view the test score and date so that they can sign off on that assignment sheet appropriately and put the score and the date there. The next task you'll need to be familiar with as a credit retrieval teacher is how to grade assignments. Assignments are found in Edmentum courses such as IPC. You'll find lab assignments, English, you'll find writing assignments, and our language courses. We'll have both written and audio assignments. We'll look at one of the written assignments first. I switch students to an active student in our IPC course. When a student has submitted some kind of activity for the teacher to grade, you will see that denoted with this little clock here. That just means I have something to grade for that student. This is a unit activity. So I'm going to go ahead and click right there with those activities. Once you click on the activity itself, you'll need to click on the lab within. You'll see it's in review mode. I'm going to use this little arrow to scroll over. It'll tell me what was needing to be accomplished by the student and give me a grading rubric right here. From there, I'll be able to see the student's answers as well as an indicator of some sort of key for me, what the answer should have been. Of course, that's going to vary depending on what type of activity it is and whether or not it's student-generated or a factual thing. This student has filled in all the answers. I would say that there might need to be a little more description and a little more included with each answer, but she did fill them in here. If a student does not fill in the answers or did not answer questions, you are able to click that activity and send it back. But she did. If I was going to give this student an 80, I'm going to leave that on score activity if I want to leave any comments here, and then I would save and send. However, if the student just submitted the activity with no answers, we would review and return without a score. I would probably indicate to the student there that answers were not given or there was an attachment that was not uploaded so that they could do that. All activities must be completed because students do have to complete all parts of the course in order to earn credit in both credit acceleration and credit retrieval. So they can't just skip over it. So if I save and return, I could indicate to the student there, but I'd probably want to say something to them as well so they knew they needed to resubmit that activity. As mentioned before, there are both written and audio activities in our language courses for students to complete. In Unit 1 of Spanish 1A, there happens to be an audio activity here, sharing names and phone numbers, that our student from earlier, John, completed. In order to grade his activity, I would have before had that little clock that I was clicking on, but now, since it's already been graded, I'm going to go back and view this way. As you can see, this has already been scored, but those do look a little different and they do require an upload. You'll see that John has uploaded his MP3 here. From there, I'm able to click download and listen to his audio file that he's submitted. One thing that's a little different about the audio files is they can sometimes be a little difficult for students to figure out how to record. So I'm going to show you that at this point. In order to do so, I'm going to go ahead and log out as the teacher and go back to a student view. We're going to look at that Spanish course. It was in Unit 1. Sharing names and phone numbers is the activity. So for a student, when they come to an activity like this, I typically advise that they would actually write down what they're going to say and record as part of that audio activity. You'll see that the student is given the objective And in the beginning, it does actually indicate that it's an audio recorded activity. They have a rubric as well. In this activity, you're going to read out loud each of the following questions and record your answers in Spanish using the audio recorder software. If the students has their answer written, it's just a lot easier for them to record the audio. And students actually have to click on Files. You'll see his is submitted here, but I'm going to pretend like he hasn't done that yet. We're going to go to Record Audio File at the bottom. At this point, the student's going to be able to record. Once they hit Start Record, it will ask them if they can use the mic. We would allow them to do so. It's not going to record because I'm using my mic at the moment, but they're able to record here. They would then type in their file name, save the file. Once they've saved the file, it will pop up here. It wouldn't say submitted for scoring at the time, but they will see their MP3. In order to submit, there's 2 boxes that you need to complete before submitting for score. That is this checkbox here where you actually select the file, and then you have to include selected files. Then they would submit for scoring. Oftentimes, students will not click these 2 boxes. They'll just go ahead and submit for score. They'll tell you, hey, I submitted. You'll see that little clock on your end of the teacher grading site, and you're going to say, there's no file here. Well, the file's there. We just have to teach them that they do need to click the checkbox before the file, include the selected files, and submit for score. It will save in there for them and they'll be able to see it when they go back in, but oftentimes you will have to teach them that the first time, or you may have to send back their activity until they're able to submit it for scoring properly. For the final portion of this training, I'm going to go ahead and log into my teacher account again. We're going to look at when a student completes a course and the course reports you run. We're back at John Smith, and we can see that John has just finished his Spanish 1A credit acceleration credit. We're going to verify a couple things there. So we're going to click on his course. And we want to make sure that all activities are completed. You should see 100% here on the completion bar. And we need to make sure that his course grade is a 70 or above. With John, he is doing credit acceleration, so he will earn the grade here, a grade of 89. If it was 89.5, we do round up, he would have a 90 at that point. But he does have an 89 on this course. If it is a credit retrieval course, even if the student earns a grade higher than 70, they can only earn a grade of 70 for the course, and we would confirm that they have 100% complete in their activities bar as well. The report that we're looking for is located right here. We're wanting a curriculum details report. So this is be included on their completion form. We're going to click the print button here. And again, we'll see all that information here, all the information for the student. And you can do this one of 2 ways. You can download the report as a PDF to save for your completion form, or if you prefer, you can print as a PDF to a certain place in your drive. I tend to do this. That way I can just select something from my Google Drive or the student's digital folder in order to upload into their completion report. So I have my Google Drive connected, and I would save it here. When titling the report, I try to use the student's name, their ID number, the course they were completing, and this is their Edmentum report. That way I know what I'm saving when I have to pull up the report later.